Good afternoon. Please forgive my indulgence with this cigar. It's really good. It's the Davidoff Lancero Millennium. I'd like to touch on a topic which you won't hear discussed overtly, but does get discussed in our small corner of collectability amongst connoisseurs of cigars, amongst retailers when we see boxes that are shown to us, or indeed when we're assessing which boxes to keep, which boxes to sell, and the thought process that happens. How can you judge the relative value, perhaps, future value of a cigar today, box of cigars? What are the parameters that we would cascade through to see whether we think this is more, less, equally valuable as another box? To explain further, you will all be aware that you can pick up Cuban cigars internationally. You can go to Cuba, you can go to any number of international markets that sell them and find a box, for example, of Cohiba Talisman, the limited edition from 2017. However, not all Cohiba Talismans in the secondary market will sell at the same price, or indeed in auction. Why? What is the assessment that is happening amongst bidders, but also amongst the people putting a reserve price on those cigars? Well, when I look at a box of cigars, the first question I ask is, are these EMS? What does that mean? That means, is it English market selection? That's, by the way, for those of you who don't know, a very early example of an EMS stamp on a box of cigars. What that tells you is that that cigar was selected, the box was selected, and imported into the UK market by Hunters and Francow. It's a true mark of distinction and quality as far as we're concerned. We know that it's gone through all the expert hands that Cuba always does. We think there might be even a little bit more thought and care behind it. But equally importantly, we know that Hunters and Francow have been doing this for 230 odd years. When they get those cigars from Cuba, they are extremely selective as well. So it gives us, the retailer, a further layer of comfort and reassurance that they are the best of the best. So when you, the consumer, get them from us, remember we're also doing that type of assessment on the cigars when we receive them. It should give you even more comfort that they are the best you can get. There are other markets which arguably get stocked with equally fine quality of Cuban cigars. Switzerland is a notable example. Germany. Traditionally, the markets where there was a state-owned monopoly importer, and I'm not picking on them by any means, because there's some incredibly good cigars in those markets, but by way of example, Spain or France, where there's a high volume of cigars coming through, very large customers for Cuba, there used to be the perception, may not be true, but there used to be the perception that the same quality did not extend across the full import that came from Cuba. I would say something in defense of those markets. If you're fortunate to get Italian or Spanish or indeed French regional editions, that is not true at all. Some of the best regionals I've come across in recent years have been produced in those markets. And I think the regional edition is a beautiful way to showcase every market, whether they're small, big, high volume, low volume. Back to the question though. What do we look at? What do customers look at? Well, I'll be truthful. It starts with EMS. Is it EMS or not? If the answer is yes, next question. What's the story of the box? Where was it stored? Who's the owner? Which retailer originally had it and sold it? These are really important considerations for collectors. If you have a upstanding, long-standing merchant that stocked it and originally sold it, I would love to say Davidoff of London. I think we have a reputation, but so do many of the other cigar merchants out there in the world. J.J. Fox, Dunhill, Cigars, there's plenty who do an amazing job. If you know that it's been kept by one of these people, it's going to give you extra comfort and reassurance that they're in the best possible condition they could be. That adds something to its eventual secondary market price. Of course, you want to open the box and assess the individual quality of that particular box. That comes into play. But bear in mind, many cigars get bought and sold in the secondary market without anyone physically inspecting the cigars. So I would say, if you're fortunate enough to be able to do that, make sure you assess the cigars. But if you can't physically investigate the cigars, you're back to original market. Which original market is it from? Who had it? Who sold it? As much of the provenance story as you can. Was it kept properly? If it was in private hands, has it been kept by a collector who understands humidity? Do you believe them? Do you trust them? And then, perhaps the slightly unknowable quality, which is the brand and the particular vitola. It's an easy one. If it's a Cohiba limited edition from recent production or even the last 20 years, it's going to go up in value. That's not really a difficult equation. But how do you assess a limited edition from Romeo and Julieta? Maybe from Trinidad, perhaps from Hoyo de Monterrey, a beautiful box of San Cristobal's. I'll give you a very good example. For me, one of the most delicious and delightful cigars I've smoked that are truly aged are Punch Ninfas from the early 90s. Very slim, long, elegant cigar. I was lucky enough to get my hands on a box of English market selection of these, kept at a fine cigar merchant's for many, many years. And when I smoked them, they were deliciously good. But they were also really expensive. And you know what? I was happy to pay the price because I knew that everything I look for when I want to maximize the potential of getting an amazing box of cigars was there. It was EMS. It was well kept. The original merchant was fantastic. I was able to look at the cigars. The condition were perfect. So, in summary, original market, then who sold it, how it's been kept, and then look at the brand and the vitola. If all those things stand up, you're going to do very well enjoying the cigar, but you could also do quite well keeping the cigar, perhaps finding a different home for it in the future. I hope that's of some help. Have a wonderful evening.